No man loses his freedom except through his own weakness. Mahatma Gandhi. What we are doing to the forests of the world is but a mirror reflection of what we are doing to ourselves and to one another. A person who is worried about the outcome of his work does not see his goal. He sees only his opposition and the obstacles before him. I know that in embarking on nonviolence I shall be running what might be termed a mad risk, but the victories of truth have never been won without risks. The greatest help you can give me is to banish fear from your hearts. A good person will resist an evil system with his whole soul. Disobedience of the laws of an evil state is therefore a duty. Whatever you do may seem insignificant to you, but it is most important that you do it. Peace between countries must rest on the solid foundation of love between individuals. A satyagrahi lays down his life, but never gives up. That is the meaning of the do or die slogan. Change yourself, you are in control. A woman's intuition has often proved truer than a man's arrogant assumption of knowledge. Friendship that insists upon agreement on all matters is not worth the name. Friendship to be real must ever sustain the weight of honest differences, however sharp they be. Genuine laughter is true eloquence and more effective than speech.
Don't forget to subscribe. Afterwards, the wisest and most spiritual books from the greatest authors await you every day. And now buckle up, sit back and we'll begin.
Satan mostly employs comparatively moral instruments and the language of ethics to give his aims an air of respectability. The day a woman can walk freely on the roads at night, that day we can say that India has achieved independence. To my mind, the life of a lamb is no less precious than that of a human being. True education is that which proves useful in life and makes you industrious. Live each day as if it were your last. Learn as if you would live forever. Look at the sparrows, they do not know what they will do in the next moment. Let us literally live from moment to moment. Exploitation of the poor can be extinguished not by effecting the destruction of a few millionaires, but by removing the ignorance of the poor and teaching them to non-cooperate with their exploiters. When I despair, I remember that all through history the way of truth and love has always won. When every hope is gone, when helpers fail and comforts flee, I find that help arrives somehow, from I know not where. Supplication, worship, prayer are no superstition, they are acts more real than the acts of eating, drinking, sitting or walking. It is no exaggeration to say that they alone are real, all else is unreal. Before the throne of the Almighty, man will be judged not by his acts but by his intentions, for God alone reads our hearts. Contraceptive methods are like putting a premium on vice. It makes man and women reckless. As it is, man has sufficiently degraded woman for his lust, and contraception, no matter how well-meaning the advocates may be, will still further degrade her. You may think your actions are meaningless and that they won't help, but that is no excuse, you must still act. The elephant needs 1,000 times more food than the ant, but that is not an indication of inequality. If you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly. I don't reject Christ. I love Christ. It's just that so many of you Christians are so unlike Christ. We may not be God, but we are of God, even as a little drop of water is of the ocean. A no uttered from the deepest conviction is better than a yes merely uttered to please, or worse, to avoid trouble. It is my own firm belief that the strength of the soul grows in proportion as you subdue the flesh. Non-violence becomes meaningless if violence is permitted for self-defense. Democracy and dependence on the military and police are incompatible. Like the bee gathering honey from the different flowers, the wise person accepts the essence of the different scriptures and sees only the good in all religions. No matter how insignificant the thing you have to do it as well as you can. Give it as much of your care and attention as you would give to the thing you regard as most important, for it will be by those small things that you shall be judged. Man should forget his anger before he lies down to sleep. A man with a grain of faith in God never loses hope, because he ever believes in the ultimate triumph of truth. It is pleasant that there will be no religions in heaven. Without action, you aren't going anywhere. Live like Jesus did, and the world will listen. The good man is the friend of all living things. The Allah of Islam is the same as the God of Christians and the Ishwar of Hindus. I am conscious of my own limitations. That consciousness is my only strength. Blaming the wolf would not help the sheep much. The sheep must learn not to fall in the clutches of the wolf. Truth is one, paths are many. The truest test of civilization, culture and dignity is character and not clothing. If you want real peace in the world, start with children. My uniform experience has convinced me that there is no other God than truth. You don't know who is important to you until you actually lose them. The human voice can never reach the distance that is covered by the still small voice of conscience. I have learned through bitter experience the one supreme lesson to conserve my anger, and as heat conserved is transmuted into energy, even so our anger controlled can be transmuted into a power which can move the world. Mutual tolerance is a necessity for all time and for all races. Literary education is of no value if it is not able to build up a sound character. Generosity consists not the sum given, but the manner in which it is bestowed. As long as the superstition that people should obey unjust laws exists, so long will slavery exist. Events that have happened during the past month have confirmed me in the opinion that the imperial government have acted in the caliphate matter in an unscrupulous, immoral and unjust manner and have been moving from wrong to wrong in order to defend their immorality. I can retain neither respect nor affection for such a government. The attitude of the Imperial and Your Excellency's governments on the Punjab question has given me additional cause for grave dissatisfaction. Nothing is impossible for pure love. A man who was completely innocent offered himself as a sacrifice for the good of others, including his enemies, and became the ransom of the world. It was a perfect act. Purity of mind and idleness are incompatible. If you give me rice, I'll eat today. If you teach me how to grow rice, I'll eat every day. Democracy is a great institution and, therefore, it is liable to be greatly abused. I want freedom for the full expression of my personality. Even if you are a minority of one, the truth is the truth. The charkha is an outward symbol of truth and non-violence. The real love is to love them that hate you, to love your neighbor even though you distrust him. I have worshipped woman as the living embodiment of the spirit of service and sacrifice. Spiritual relationship is far more precious than physical. Physical relationship divorced from spiritual is body without soul. Every fight is won between different angles of vision illuminating the same truth. Jealousy does not wait for reasons. One must become as humble as the dust before he can discover truth. There is an orderliness in the universe. There is an unalterable law governing everything and every being that exists or lives. It is no blind law, for no blind law can govern the conduct of living beings. Woman is the companion of man, gifted with equal mental capacity. If by strength is meant moral power, then woman is immeasurably man's superior. If non-violence is the law of our being, the future is with women. I call him religious who understands the suffering of others. It was the cowards who died many times before their death. An error does not become truth by reason of multiplied propagation, nor does truth become error because nobody sees it. I do regard spinning and weaving as a necessary part of any national system of education. It is the duty of every cultured man or woman to read sympathetically the scriptures of the world, if we are to respect others' religions as we would have them respect our own. A friendly study of the world's religions is a sacred duty. Who can deny that much that passes for science and art today destroys the soul instead of uplifting it, and instead of evoking the best in us, panders to our basest passions? Economic equality is the master key to non-violent independence. We notice that the mind is a restless bird. The more it gets, the more it wants, and still remains unsatisfied. The more we indulge our passions, the more unbridled they become. Our ancestors, therefore, set a limit to our indulgences. They saw that happiness was largely a mental condition. A man is not necessarily happy because he is rich, or unhappy because he is poor. Millions will always remain poor. To practice non-violence in mundane matters is to know its true value. Self-sacrifice of one innocent man is 1,000,000 times more potent than the sacrifice of 1,000,000 men who die in the act of killing others. I have naturally formed the habit of restraining my thoughts. A thoughtless word hardly ever escaped my tongue or pen. Experience has taught me that silence is part of the spiritual discipline of a votary of truth. We find so many people impatient to talk. All this talking can hardly be said to be of any benefit to the world. It is so much waste of time. My shyness has been in reality my shield and buckler. It has allowed me to grow. It has helped me in my discernment of truth. Individual liberty and interdependence are both essential for life in society. Non-violence does not signify that man must not fight against the enemy, and by enemy is meant the evil which men do, not the human beings themselves. I suggest that we are thieves in a way. If I take anything that I do not need for my own immediate use, and keep it, I thieve it from somebody else. Nature produces enough for our wants from day to day, and if only everybody took enough for himself and nothing more, there would be no pauperism in this world, there would be no man dying of starvation in this world. But so long as we have got this inequality, so long we are thieving. I object to violence because when it appears to do good, the good is only temporary, the evil it does is permanent. Man will ever remain imperfect, and it will always be his part to try to be perfect. High thinking is inconsistent with a complicated material life based on high speed and imposed on us by mammon worship. The real ornament of woman is her character, her purity. The law of love could be best understood and learned through little children. If I am true to myself, if I am true to mankind, if I am true to humanity, I must understand all the faults that human flesh is heir to. Once one assumes an attitude of intolerance, there is no knowing where it will take one. Intolerance, someone has said, is violence to the intellect, and hatred is violence to the heart. Mankind is notoriously too dense to read the signs that God sends from time to time. We require drums to be beaten into our ears before we should wake from our trance and hear the warning and see that to lose oneself in all is the only way to find oneself. Cowardice is impotence worse than violence. The coward desires revenge, but being afraid to die, he looks to others, maybe to the government of the day, to do the work of defense for him. A coward is less than a man. He does not deserve to be a member of a society of men and women. If I were a dictator, religion and state would be separate. I swear by my religion. I will die for it, but it is my personal affair. The state has nothing to do with it. The state would look after your secular welfare, health, communications, foreign relations, currency and so on, but not your or my religion. That is everybody's personal concern. Be the change you want to see. I am not fighting machinery as such, but the madness of thinking that machinery saves labor. Men save labor until thousands of them are without work and die of hunger on the streets. I want to secure employment and livelihood not only to part of the human race, but for all. I will not have the enrichment of a few at the expense of the community. At present the machine is helping a small minority to live on the exploitation of the masses. The motive force of this minority is not humanity or love of their kind, but greed and avarice. Hate the sin and not the sinner is a precept which, though easy enough to understand, is rarely practiced, and that is why the poison of hatred spreads in the world. I have been known as a crank, faddist, madman. Evidently the reputation is well deserved, for wherever I go, I draw to myself cranks, faddists, and madmen. My doctrine means that I must identify myself with life, with everything that lives, that I must share the majesty of life in the presence of God. The sum total of this life is God. Man is not at peace with himself until he has become like unto God. The endeavor to reach this state is the supreme, the only ambition worth having. And this is self-realization. This self-realization is the subject of the Gita, as it is of all scriptures. To be a real devotee is to realize oneself. Self-realization is not something apart. Keep my word positive. Words become my behaviors. Keep my behaviors positive. Behaviors become my habits. Keep my habits positive. Habits become my values. Keep my values positive. Values become my destiny. Mahatma Gandhi.
And that's not all. Our experts and regular viewers respond to all comments. Also check if you forgot to subscribe and set your bell to receive notifications about new audiobooks and other useful self-development materials that we release regularly. Join in the discussions, don't forget to give likes and, if possible and inspired, support the development of the channel financially. All useful links will be in the description and the first attached comment. Goodness, love and wisdom to all. And now move on to watch the next part of the video at the links below, or choose something from the playlists of the channel and those you see on the screen.